Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, and I got a back-to-back Blumhouse review double feature for you. Yeah, last night I watched two more Blumhouse films back-to-back. One was actually really good. Probably one of the best I've seen from Blumhouse, and the other one was a complete fucking piece of shit, which I expected. So I'm going to do the good one first, and that is 2019's Ma, which is a psychological horror film starring Octavia Spencer. And it was directed by Peter Taylor, written by Scotty Landis. Now, the thing about this film is, one reason why I really like it is because it's another one without supernatural elements. Yes, Blumhouse can get away from that once in a while, and when they do, it's usually pretty good. You know, this, Hush, don't really know if Get Out counts. I mean, it's not ghosts or demons, but I really enjoyed this film. Is it original? No. I mean, we've seen these sort of, back in the 70s, this would have been called a Man in the Room film if it was a male character. You know, the psychotically obsessed, stalkery films centered around this one really disturbed character who becomes obsessed with a person or a group of people and descends into madness. And Octavia Spencer is an actress who I've never seen her lead in anything. I've seen mostly cameos. I know she had a cameo in the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man. She had a cameo in Saw 5. Rob Zombie's H2. She gets stabbed a bunch of times in the hospital. But I've never seen her lead. And this film is... man, did she knock it out of the park. I mean, not only did she show that she's leading lady material, but she took on a challenging role and absolutely nailed it. I consider her role akin to Kathy Bates as Annie Wilkes in Misery, which I just started watching season 2 of Castle Rock, and I don't really have time for shows, but I wanted to check it out. And Lizzie Kaplan is fucking astounding as Annie Wilkes. You close your eyes, she sounds just like Kathy Bates. Incredible. And the thing about this film is, it is very much like Misery. There's even a scene in it that is directly from Misery. Almost exactly. But, you know, that kind of character where she's incredibly sweet and innocent, you can't help but love her. But then when she gets really, you know, she goes really fucked up and she becomes quite scary. I guess the genesis, and also Octavia Spencer executively produced this film too. It was made for $5 million. You know, I can see it. Really good production quality as well. I mean, that is one thing I can give Blumhouse is, okay, they don't always have good production value in cinematography, but when they do, it's actually really good. Made for $5 million, it grossed 61.1. I don't really remember this coming out. I remember when it came out after the fact, never really knowing what it was about. I mean, I knew it was about, you know, an elderly, sort of elderly woman, Octavia Spencer, who's severely disturbed. I thought it was actually about someone's actual mother, but I was wrong. But the Tate Taylor, for some reason I feel like I said something different. But yeah, apparently the genesis was Tate Taylor, who, what else has he done? Girl on the Train, The Help, Get On Up, which I believe The Help is a, no, it's not Blumhouse, it's actually, I don't know what the hell that is. But he went up to Jason Blum and he says, I want to do something really fucked up. And so he wrote out a draft. Originally, it was written for a white woman. But then, he started thinking about Octavia Spencer. And supposedly he called her up, said, hey, do you want to be in a horror movie? And she said yes right on the spot without reading a script or asking what it was about. And I watched the special features, and she really went for this. The special features on this, they're very short, but, you get little tidbits out of them. And, she's really proud of this role. She says, you've never seen me in a role like this, which, no shit. And again, I absolutely loved her performance. It's probably going to be hard for me to beat Kathy Bates as Annie Wilkes, although Charlize Theron as Eileen Wuornos in Monster is a very, 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 very close second. But this has now become one of my top favorite performances by an actress. I mean, also Nurse Ratched, Cuckoo's Nest, Janet Leigh in Psycho. She is now among my top favorite performances. I can't praise her enough. I feel like if it had been any other actress, just because of what she brought to it, it would have just felt like another psycho stalker, psychological horror film. I mean, it probably still would have been good, but not with what she brought to it. Basically, what the story is you have this new girl who has just moved into town, Maggie, played by Diana Silvers, and her mother's actually Juliette Lewis. She works at a casino. And she meets up with some friends. This one kid who doesn't drink, their love interests. This one blonde girl who's a loudmouth, Haley, played by McKaylee Miller. Her boyfriend, this other kid was named Duan, something like that. Anyway, it's like a group of 5 friends, so they start hanging out. They're trying to find someone to buy them alcohol because they want to go party. And eventually, this woman who works at a veterinarian's office is walking a dog. And they ask her, she kind of hems and haws, and then she agrees. She gives them their alcohol. And right off the bat, she starts looking them up on Facebook. Because the kid that drives the van, his dad does construction or something. His dad has a business. He has a fleet of vans, so the business is right on it. So she's able to kind of troubleshoot and find out who they are through there. And she calls the cops on them, so they got no place to go. So then the next time they ask her, she says, why don't you just come back to my place? So they start partying at her place, and she becomes obsessed with them. They start fulfilling her life. She's always showing up at school with alcohol, blowing up their phones with, quick video messages about, hey, come and party. Am I gonna drink alone? I'm not gonna get into the whole film because I don't want to. Well, I always say spoiler alert, but. And the only ones to really catch on that something is fucked up is Maggie and Haley. Because before you know it, more and more groups of kids are showing up at Ma's house. They give her the named Ma. Her name is actually Sue-Ann. And, you know, it's just more and more disturbing behavior that she exhibits. Her obsession shows that it's taken over her job. You know, she's always caught on her phone or on the computer or, you know, plotting something for later on. I'm going to get into spoilers here because, you know, this did just come out not that long ago, and I do highly recommend it. Damn it. Yeah, it's a psychological horror film. I know because I've talked to people on here, I've talked to people on Facebook. There's people that's like, if it's not super gory, then it's not horror, which is horseshit. Or like, if there's no ghosts or demons, it's not horror, which is also bullshit. They'll probably call this a thriller. It's a fucking horror film. I find it sad I have to keep saying that in every video. But, you know, she also does kind of go through an arc. Because, like, when we first see her, she's wearing her vet scrubs. And as the movie goes on, she's progressively getting more and more cool young girl clothes, doing her makeup and her hair. She seems to really be finding an identity with these kids. I guess in the first draft of the script, there was no backstory to Sue-Ann. There wasn't going to be a backstory. Taylor wanted her to be a complete monster that no one could relate to or sympathize with, but eventually they decided, well, maybe the film will be more effective if we give her a backstory so that people can sympathize with her. You know, more the psychological roller coaster about you sympathize with her, but she's fucking crazy. And, you know, several themes throughout the film is trauma, sins of the parents, and just how people treat each other in general. Like, how society can see the popular kids or the not so popular kids. And her past is revealed through a series of flashbacks throughout the film. And it really is, as it goes on, she becomes more and more sinister, even more like making it aware to people like Maggie and Haley that she knows what she's doing, and she is showing them what she's doing. But it is very gradual. It starts off very slow and small, and it just builds up to a pretty intense climax. So I'm going to get into spoilers here, but I do highly recommend this. I'm not a very big fan of Blumhouse. They do have a handful of gems that I do enjoy, and this is quite possibly one of the best that they've done. So spoilers here. So, you know, of course, probably the first thing she does is the first time they go over there, one of the kids kind of gets all cocky with her about something, about being cool. So she pulls out a gun, makes him strip, and everyone's kind of freaked out. And then she starts laughing. She's like, "This isn't loaded. I don't know how to use it." So it was like a prank. And everyone loves her. I mean, the parties keep getting bigger. Everyone's toasting to Ma. But when the parties aren't happening, she is incredibly lonely and sad. Again, like, she's supposed to be trimming a dog, but she's on her phone, like on Facebook, looking up these kids or plotting something because the parents of Maggie's mother and her boyfriend, the one with the van, his dad had something to do with her past when she was in high school that I guess turned her into what she is. And slowly, a couple kids start realizing that their jewelry's gone missing. There's one scene where Maggie and her boyfriend decide to start dating. So they start kissing at the party. Ma brings over some shots. Maggie takes one and she just goes down. It was spiked. Because she kind of has a thing for her boyfriend, who I believe, what was the boyfriend? Andy, played by Corey Fogelmanis. So we get the idea that, her past involved Maggie's mom and Andy's dad. And also, the first time they go over, her number one rule is you can do whatever you want in the basement. Do not go upstairs. That's my world. Stay out of it. And when Haley has to use the bathroom, but people are using it, she has to go upstairs, brings Maggie, and when she finds out, she grabs a hold of him. She's got the wrath of God in her face. And she's just constantly blowing people up, like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. At one point, she even tells them that she's dying of cancer to gain sympathy. At one point, Maggie and Haley even decide to go to her house while she's not home to look for her jewelry. And there they encounter her daughter, Jeannie, who's this young, kind of sickly looking girl who we've seen earlier in the film. Maggie knows her, but she's been kept home because she's sick. But I believe Ma has Munchausen syndrome by proxy. She's telling this poor girl that she's sick. It just keeps building up, and through the flashbacks, we find out that her and the boyfriend's dad kind of liked each other, and he sent her a note one day in class saying, "Meet me in the janitor's closet after class," and so she did. She met someone in there, gave him a blowjob, and when she came out of the closet, everyone was standing there laughing at her, including the guy, the kid, and it was just some other random kid that was in there, and it was a big prank, and Maggie's mother was in on it, and she sort of carried this grudge throughout her life. And I mean, there are other people she targets. I mean, the kids, the boyfriend's dad who pulled the prank, he goes into the vet, sees her, is like, we gotta catch up. So they go out for drinks, and he shows her this tracking device that he has on all his vans. He's like, my son's been at your house. Don't know what a 16-year-old's doing at your house, but it better stop. And then, she even makes herself known to Juliette Lewis by stopping by to check up on the dog. It's kind of like Cape Fear. It's like if you take Misery and Cape Fear, certain elements of each, that's kind of what you get. Because it has this revenge plot, it has this, she's popping up everywhere, kind of story. But done sort of in the way of Misery, because she is this sweet, sad, lonely, sympathetic woman who is deeply troubled and disturbed. And, it's like you're really conflicted because you sympathize with her, but you see what kind of a fucking crazy bitch she is. And eventually she does get a hold of the one kid's dad. She has him tied to her bed. Blumhouse shows a dick. It looks fake, but she threatens to cut it off. But she, talking about the prank and, he's calling her a loser and all this shit. She's got an IV of dog blood. I think what happened was she, like, because he's strapped to the bed, it's like she slit his wrist and then injected him with something while hooked up to an IV of dog blood, because she's like, all men are dogs, this is what you are. I just want to see if that's exactly what happened. Yeah, so it's like his blood is pumping out through this arm, but the dog blood is going in through the other arm. And there's even one point where Maggie and Haley's had enough of Ma. So Haley sends out this massive video text saying, everyone block Ma, because she's been blowing everyone up. But Ma does get a hold of it. And, you get the idea that rejection has followed her whole life. And that's one of the triggers for her. And she just flies off the handle like Kathy Bates. So they have this big party, this one girl's birthday party. But the kids who are left is the main, 5 kids from the beginning. And they all got dog collars, and they're, chained to the wall. The one kid, she talked about having, the perfect athletic body, so they're all knocked out. But she burns him in the abdomen with an iron. Haley gets her mouth sewn shut. The one token black kid in the group, she says something about how, there's only room for one of us. It paints his face white. And then she, and that's one thing. I do remember the trailer. There's the whole thing where she has her picture taken on the sofa with all the kids after she does shit to them. It makes Maggie take it. Which, that's another thing we see throughout the film is she's cutting out parts of her yearbook. And pictures she's taken with her and the kids. She's putting the parents on, the back of the pictures. And creating new, yearbook photos with her and the kids. It's just one of those, scenes that is supposed to help with the build-up. Even those unsettling, what is she doing? Because she's, softly singing to herself. You get, this isn't normal. It's unsettling. And it pretty much ends with, the daughter, Jeannie, who's been pretty much severely neglected and told she was sick her whole life, fighting back, and the house gets set on fire. The kids get rescued. Ma just goes back up to the bedroom where that one kid's dad is and lays down with him as the house burns. But then it really ends, sometime later. The kids are talking about how Ma's been declared dead. They never found her body. So they invite Jeannie, Ma's daughter, out to the rock pile, which is a famous drinking spot. And so they're all out there, and they're like, hey, this is Jeannie's first night, so let's get her to take a shot. So they all cheer her on, she takes a shot, and then it ends. Because the first flashback is Sue Ann being invited out to the rock pile, and on her first night, they cheer her on to take a shot. Sort of implying that history may repeat itself. Oh, and the scene that is lifted directly from Misery. While all the kids are tied, or, chained up in the basement, a police officer stops by and says, hey, there's some beer cans and cups on the lawn. I got cars out here. Where are the kids at? She's like, there's no kids here. I don't know any kids. And she just told Maggie to be quiet down in the basement. He hears a noise, but of course Jeannie comes by with her little scooter. So close call. He starts walking away. Big loud noise from the basement because Maggie knocks something over. Cop turns around. Ma shoots him. Almost exactly like in Misery. when she's got Paul, James Caan, down in the basement. The sheriff, Buster, comes by. They talk. He's about to leave. Paul knocks the grill over in the basement, gets his attention. When he goes back in the house, he gets shot. This movie did a very... I know some people will say the lack... that this movie would have been scarier without... without the backstory. Having just a sinister, fucked up, evil person. But I think if you're going to make someone sympathetic... I mean, there's even a scene where she buys other kids alcohol. And she's leading them to her house, and she's all happy. And just as she's about to make the turn, they just pull around her. They throw something at her window, flip her off, and call her a loser, and drive off with their alcohol. And she just sits there and has a breakdown. If you're going to have sympathetic elements like that, the backstory will help the story with that. And it will also make the unsettling stuff more unsettling. Because it makes it look like a monster that was created and not born. However, if you have a character that is, like, say, Terrifier. A character that is just evil from the start with no sympathy, then go no backstory. I think the backstory does help with a sympathetic character like this. And of course, at the end you find out Juliette Lewis was sort of in on the blowjob prank. And so I liked the themes of having this lonely, sad, but severely disturbed person who thrives off attention and friendship and, life fulfillment. Being defined by trauma and tragedy, elements of sins of the parents, by means of, how we treat people in our day-to-day lives, especially in our youth and high school. I think it really worked for a, these sort of psycho-stalker kind of psychological thriller. But really, the crown jewel of this film is Octavia Spencer. She did an absolutely outstanding job. This was one hell of a performance. Definitely one of my, I want to say top 5, if not definitely top 10 favorite performances by an actress. Just absolutely stunning. And I had never seen her in a lead before, so she really blew me away. I couldn't get enough of her in this, and every emotion that she put out there, she conveyed perfectly. Sadness, loneliness, worry, anxiety, anger, rage, all of it. She just did such a wonderful job. And, I gotta say, for Blumhouse, this is a damn good movie. I mean, I kind of figured that it was going to be good. This was going to be more my type of movie, especially for Blumhouse. But even seeing it, I was like, yeah, it's definitely good. I can say this is a Blumhouse film I actually really, really, really enjoy. The alternate ending doesn't really add much. It just shows her, getting more animal tranquil. It's pretty much the same ending, but it shows Ma all burnt up, walking through the vet's office, getting more animal tranquilizers. Doesn't really add much. I liked the sort of bleak ending about how history could repeat itself. But yeah, I really enjoyed Ma. I thought this was a very, very good movie. Never boring. I love these psycho stalker type flicks. And it was all made by a stellar performance by Octavia Spencer. But that is Ma. Thank you for watching.